How was everyone's week? Yeah, that's good. All right, if everyone would like to turn to Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verses 1 through 11, we'll start with that. So if someone would read that, Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verses 1 through 11.
1 through 11.
Yes.
The words of the preacher, the son of David, king of Jerusalem. Vanity of vanities, says the vanity of vanities, all is vanity. What profit has a man from all his labor in which he toils under the sun? One generation passes away, and another generation comes. The earth abides forever. The sun also rises, and the sun goes down, and hastens to the place where it arose. The wind goes toward the south, and turns around to the north. The wind whirls about continually, and goes again on the circle. All the rivers run into the sea, and the sea is not full. To the place from which the rivers come, there they return again. All things are full of labor, man cannot express it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. That which is been is what will be. That which is done is what will be done. And there is nothing new under the sun. Is there anything of which it may be said, see, this is new? It has already been in ancient times before. There is no remembrance of former things, nor will there be any remembrance of things that are to come by those who will come out.
So what do you think about that reading?
Yeah. It's been done before, even though people think, oh, this is a new thing or whatever. It's been done before.
It's been done before. Joe?
I think it's interesting that there's some scientific going to the south and circling toward the north. You know, right there tells you the ground. And people didn't know that for centuries.
Maybe they wouldn't know, but they didn't know the side came in. Anything else from anyone?
I think it's interesting to comment about the rivers running to the sea that never gets full.
Right. I
Well,
think
that ought to tell you something else about the meteorological things that are happening.
things will always be. Anything else before I make a comment?
Well, I think it's also in the labor version, they're talking about things, sin, maybe see new things happening, not new, old.
Right.
It happened over to many,
Right.
and it's not new, it's gonna happen again.
And I think when we look at it, I think the point comes from even Solomon with all his wisdom, basically, can you sense there's a lot of frustration? Do I? Maybe. Is there frustrations in our lives a lot of times because we're wondering what we're doing here? If you really think about it. Because Solomon's digging into this problem, what is my life? Have we ever thought of that? What's the meaning of your life to you? Anyone care to speak? I know it's kind of touchy.
Well, I tell you this, as you get older, the meaning changes.
Right, because why?
Well, you're getting closer.
You get closer. Yeah, I mean, that's true, that's part of it. Heaven is our home. But now you're not dwelling on the frustrations of life when you're looking at that.
What I'm saying is the material things that you have do not mean as much to you as you get older and you're younger.
Right.
That's what I meant.
Yeah, and exactly, because, Solomon's talking about all these things he's accomplished, all these, the material wealth of the world that he's got, but what does it mean to him? So sometimes do we think our lives don't mean anything to us because of the situations that maybe we are in?
That's why I rewatched several times last month. It's a Wonderful Life. Because that is a great story. Because We don't realize who all we affect in our lifetime. How many things would be different if we weren't.
And I still need to watch that show. I've never seen.
You've never seen
I've
it?
never seen
Oh,
it.
God.
Them on.
It's a great moral story.
Yeah. But you're going exactly where I want to go here. So a lot of us may think that, you know, what's my life? What does it mean? But to think about, what does your life mean to others based on your relationship with Christ? And I think that's what we need to start looking at. You know, your life here is really but a vapor. It doesn't take long, and we need to be focused on the right things. And from what I'm gathering, we really don't need to be worrying about what does life mean to me as far as what am I getting out of life, but more in what can I do to help others get the most out of life and eternal life. Is what, and anyone have a different perspective on that?
I've always, well, I say always, a friend of ours made a comment about living. And living involves everything around us. It
Right.
involves family, friends, supermarket, weather. It involves on just everything else around you that affects you.
And speaking of that, we'll get to it in a few minutes. A lot of people have the victim mentality, right? But whereas, do what?
We have no daughters.
That-
Everything is everybody else's fault.
Right. So, and that's something that we need to realize, no matter what happens, we live life. Everyone's gonna have the same things pretty much happen in their lives. It's just how you take it and what you do with it that makes the difference.
I've been reading through, book Job, and, it's amazing how even the best intentions that a person might have, people can turn it around on you as if, you know, you were the most horrible person that ever walked the face of the earth. And the Bible says that Job was above all of that, and yet his friends, look at how they mistreated, his life and made it look like he was this wicked individual. So we have to be careful and maintain the very best, because even our best is going to be looked down.
Correct. So go ahead and let's go to chapter 12 of Ecclesiastes, verses 9 through 14.
Well, what?
Chapter 12, 9 through 14.
In addition to being a wise man, a preacher who taught the people knowledge, and he pondered and searched out and arranged many proverbs. The preacher sought to find delightful words and words of truth written uprightly. The words of men are like goads. The masters of these collections are like well-driven nails. They are given by one shepherd. But in addition to these, my son, be warned, and making of many books is endless, and much devotion to books is wearying to the flesh. The end of the matter, all has been heard, fear God and keep his commandments, because this is the end of the matter for all mankind. For God will bring every work into judgment, everything which is hidden, whether it is good or whether it is evil.
So, something to think about, we just started talking about, what would happen if you moved out of your neighborhood? Would people miss you? Would they be glad you're gone? Or, depends on what,
The guys are very important.
right, and that's true, it depends on where you live, but are you making an impact in your community? In other words, if you moved out of Gladewater, would people miss you?
It depends on what kind of neighbor you are. It depends on what kind of community member you are.
Right.
You know, if you cause lots of trouble and the police are always at your house and all that kind of thing, those kinds of things, that makes me precious. But if you don't have all the negativism that happens in someone's life, then sometimes people will turn around and pay attention to the difference in the life of that neighbor versus the life of other people they know.
And Archie,
How many of your neighbors do you actually meet?
not many,
Not
and
like it used to be.
and I can promise you, we've reached out and tried to, talk to a few, but it's, everybody's kind of staying in their own place, Yeah. And that's sad that it's that way today, but everybody's running, everybody's busy. So again, we're talking about what impact you have on the lives of others. Yes, Margaret?
Well, before I just moved, I was on a little coast, there were 4 houses. The one, well, actually, the 2 on either side were very, very cooperative and nice, and if I needed anything I wanted, they were always right there, and one of them even helped me move. And when I moved recently to the facility where I'm at now. So I can't really complain about my neighbors.
And something to think about when, we're talking about when you're gone, so let's say when you pass, people in your community that you've seen that usually has a big funeral, why do they have a big funeral?
You have money.
Money is some of it, but I mean, not necessarily involved in the community. People really get to know them. They mean something to a lot of people. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a lot of people show up at the funeral in most cases.
Age will have a lot to do with the number too. If you live to be a ripe old age, there won't be very many people at your funeral.
Correct.
That's
That's true. I mean, unfortunately,
the nature of the beast.
yeah, it is. When all your friends are gone, you're left.
Also, the opposite of that can be true too. I know some older people that transcend the generation gap. And they have a lot of friends and they're making a difference in people's lives. There's one lady here that, I don't know how old she is, but she's not a spring chicken, but she loves everybody here and everybody here loves her.
Because you're making the impact on others' lives. So I think that's something we need to think about, is not necessarily what are we getting out of our life. I mean, it's important because we're living this life, but I think the return comes where you're satisfied when you're out helping others and doing for others. And I believe that's when your fruit is multiplied, because you're actually sowing the seed of the kingdom. You're out helping others. You're doing things that God has asked you to do. So that's where fulfillment and joy in life comes from, I think, is seeing others benefiting for what you help them with, and growing in their spiritual lives. So, again, we said, what would happen if you moved out of your neighborhood? Would people notice? Would they say, oh man, why are you moving? Or we're going to miss you? Or would they say yippee? Or what was their name again?
Thank God for it.
There you go. Would they even notice that you were gone? And I think, as we talked about earlier, most people wouldn't even notice, because why? You don't know, but I mean, you either see the cars there or the car's not there most of the time. That's all you see. Nobody goes outside, nobody visits anymore. That's it. What if you left your place of employment? Would the atmosphere of your workplace change? Yeah. For the good, or for better, or for worse?
Depends on your coworkers.
What if you left your church? What would that be like? Would people miss you, or would they not? One of the things that frequently happens is that people will leave a church and no one will be aware for a few months. This happens in most churches, and often we look at that as an indictment on ourselves or those in leadership. We feel bad because we didn't notice, and we should notice. But it's also an indictment on those who can leave without being missed. So truly, if you're a person that can leave somewhere without being missed, were you really involved?
Were you ever really there?
Say again, John?
I said, were you ever really there?
Were you ever, exactly, were you really there? Are you participating in what the organization is all about?
A lot of that would depend on the size of the congregation too.
Definitely.
There's some really large ones that you never know. You might not even know they were there to begin with.
Right, because you just don't get to see it.
Which is why I like small.
I do too.
Usually though, when I've seen that happen, there's a lot of scenarios that can go on. I agree. But a lot of times when I've seen that happen, there's enough blame to go around. Maybe we're not communicating within the church, within the group. Or maybe I haven't noticed because I wasn't paying enough attention to that person. They sit on the other side of the building and run out before I can get to the back of the building. So they're gone and I don't know it. Hey, another thing, not this congregation, I'm not talking about our elders. I went to a congregation in Longview and I asked an elder where a woman was that had been quite an active member, that I hadn't seen her in a while, and he said, "Who's that?" Well, if the elders are supposed to be, and then I said, "Well, she's been a member here since 1930 something, and she, I go." He says, "Well, I don't know who she is."
Wow.
Okay, and now there is a person who may have thought they desired to be an elder, but they didn't know what they were really getting into. Or the congregation was kind of large, yes. But you could get a list of members anywhere, anytime you want to. You just go out and you give me that.
And they should come up with a way to keep track of everyone and so that someone knows every member in the congregation. But I think that goes to where we're responsible as well. If Miss Sue sits over there and, like you said, comes in after church starts and leaves before church is over with, maybe we need to somehow reach out and make sure that we get to know them a little better. I mean, I understand they probably just want to think they're here at church, feel good, they come to church, then they leave. But again, if they left, would we ever miss them? And that's their decision.
Yeah, but it's also a bad attitude on their part, because fellowship is part of
No, I
our
agree.
worship.
I
And that
completely
if they're
agree.
running out, coming in late and running out early,
Yeah.
they're not doing their part on that either.
They're-
Even though I may not be doing my part because I don't believe sitting over there early enough to be out here at the door when they go out. I've done that a few times. It may look awkward, but I have done.
But sometimes you'll catch them and you can have a good conversation with them.
But, maybe we're not really teaching what we're supposed to be getting out of worship. And, we may know whatever it is, 5 steps or whatever it is we teach, but are we really getting what we're supposed to be getting out of it? And certainly, I don't think if I sat over there, ran out that door, went out the kitchen door before anybody else left, parked my car well, that I would be getting any fellowship out of it, because I wouldn't be fellowshipping with any of you.
Right, but then again, did you put something into it? No, you didn't. Because, and I tell this in a lot of different situations, especially, when after my divorce and before I got remarried for 5 years, people say, well, I feel like the third wheel or fifth wheel, and it is a different relationship. It definitely is. But you got to put yourself in situations. You can't just stay at home and just feel sorry for yourself, because you're not going to get anything else out of it. So you've got to get out there.
And there's a lot of things that I've seen. Every Church of Christ I've been in, there's twice as many women in the church as there are men. That's about the ratio. Because you've got your widow women, you've got your divorcees, you've got women who've never married, and all this kind of thing together. You're usually going to come out with about 1/3 men and 2/3 women, or close.
Right.
And the worst excuse I've ever heard a woman use, and I've told somebody this, a single, I don't have anybody to sit with. And I've told more, I said, listen, you're welcome to, I tell them, there's twice as many single women in this church as there are men. And I said, any of us would probably be glad for you to come sit with them. I would be glad for you to sit with me. But it doesn't
Right, people,
It just, the bell just doesn't
Yeah.
ring,
and sometimes that's when you've got to make that conscious decision, maybe go sit by them,
you know?
you know? And just show them that you really mean what you're talking about. But I understand there's people that get in their zone and don't want anyone around them, but we've got to try to overcome that. So things we think about, did you even notice when they left? Don't you want to live a kind of life that if you left, people would immediately know you're gone? Would that be nice? Not to heap praise on you or anything, but you made a difference in someone's life, or else they wouldn't miss you, right? Don't you want to matter in that way? How can we do that? How can we live a life that matters? This will be the focus of this study that I'm going to present to you this time as I'm teaching. But what is the foundation for a life that matters? Throughout Ecclesiastes, Solomon shares several foundations that will never give meaning. Wisdom, education, pleasures, stuff, work, friends, personal advancement, riches, happiness, and recreation, just to name a few. Did we just name everything that we're searching for? We did. So as Solomon said, there's nothing in that. It's frustration because, like I said, the water just keeps recirculating. This world keeps just turning. Same thing's happening over and over and over again. Nothing new under the sun. And I hear people say, well, today's times are much worse than they were years ago. No, I think we just see it more because the internet's there. We can see it instantly. But the same things always happen. Why was Sodom and Gomorrah demolished?
Read the book of Judges if you believe that for 1 minute.
Or the flood.
Priorities change.
Read the book of Judges. If you believe that for 1 minute, read the book of Judges and you will. There's things in that book that if you hadn't read them before, they will pop your eyes out.
Oh, I know. But
And
somebody said something over here.
I just said priorities change.
Priorities.
All of a sudden, all of those things you mentioned were a priority, but not enough of a priority to focus on the most important to what you think means in your life. If you jump around because you see someone else in that situation, you think, oh, well, that's what I need to be doing.
Because we're looking at physical things,
Physical
right?
things.
Physical happenings. And like Archie said, and I think it's true. I mean, if I think back through my life, I'm not as old as Archie, but really, as you're getting closer, you realize what's more important.
that's right.
So I think that, hopefully we can start realizing what's more important younger, so that what happens, you don't waste your youth, as Timothy was told. So, Joe, was you gonna say something?
Okay. And that in itself is cyclical too, the world, because, you had Sodom and Gomorrah and you had debauchery all 3 times. Then you had the Victorian period, when everything was, couldn't do anything. So eventually, what's going on in the world today, I think we'll go, if it's spaced here long enough, we'll go through another
I
period.
think that pendulum's over here, it's not going much higher.
Yeah. It'll reset.
Like I said, Terry, we live down, we're gonna take it all with us,
Right.
That.
You take it,
Like I said, not gonna be a U-Haul trailer behind your hearse.
Yeah, that's right.
that is true. So where do we need to be putting our treasures and what do we need to be doing? The fruit of the Spirit, right? We need to be spreading God's word. We need to be kind, loving. We need to make an impact on others' lives so they can see what do we have in our life that is important.
What impact that we can make is when we do miss someone, we need to let them know that we miss them. That'll make them want to come back more.
But a lot of times, what do? Well, someone else will reach out or,
We just let it go. Well, they've missed a month now, whatever. We need to know why they missed
Right.
and encourage them, because to know that we're missed means a lot.
right.
We, like I say, we think that it doesn't matter what I do, but it does matter.
Right.
And we need to think about that. We're losing people all the time. Teenagers, we need to encourage them and tell them we want them here. We enjoy seeing them and
So in today's society, why don't we do that?
I don't know, because sometimes we can be a nosy neighbor and see that our neighbors are gone or
We
not
think we're gonna
doing
offend them, we think
something.
we're gonna bother them,
We need to check on
we need to
them
check
and
on them.
see. And even if it's nothing, they're glad you check.
We grew up in this country, Terry, in this generation coming up, we've gone from being a neighborhood of families, and we've grown to start respecting people's space. If they don't tell us, we don't need to know.
See, that, yeah,
And we as Christians need to know about our brother, you know, a good example, you know what, if you're good standing with your brothers and sisters, you know what's going on in their lives.
right.
Same way with our church family, we need to know what's going on in our family. But this, we have created this zones, and you know, we talk about stepping outside our box. We've got to step outside our box.
Right.
We got to break that barrier down. But people have those barriers. When you get there, they get pushy. And you got to know you got to get to know them a little bit better before you step across that line. But we created that in this country. That, well, what they're doing over in that house and what they're going through is lost loved one. That's them. They need something they can ask us. But we sometimes need to just say, "Is there anything we can do?"
Right.
But we've got to change. We just got to tear our box apart and just start stepping out. So,
Because we can't wait for others to come ask us, because more than likely, no one's gonna ask you to do something for them these days.
that's just like right here at the church.
Mhm.
If you need something done, you need to go ask somebody. Don't say, "I need a volunteer,"
Right.
because you see hands go up.
No.
There's where you're at.
But you've got to ask and let people know you need help.
Gary,
Yes.
it's also has to be done in love,
That's right.
because I've had people tell me they missed me before for not being there, and I know their intention is like, well, where were you? You know, kind of missed you, instead of, hey, I really missed you, you know, I mean, so it's gotta be the way we do it, the way it's presented, it has to all be in love.
You know, there's a book that, not a religious book, but a book I've read for business. And we talk about it all the time. Roger, I could come up to you and say, "Where were you?" You know, and you would, because I don't know you, you know, you would, well, he's just trying to say, well, why wasn't he there? What was he out doing when he should have been? And I could go up to Gary, "Where were you?" Gary and I know each other real well, and, you know, he wouldn't be offended by it. Because most people get offended if they don't know that you care about them and you approach them with a subject. Whereas if you care about them and they know you care about them, you can approach them with a subject and talk to them and get deeper into it because they know you care. Does that make sense?
You've got to be able to understand how you phrase things to certain people. You know.
Right.
You know, you walk up to Roger not knowing him, you just knew of him and said, "You know, we miss you guys. Is there anything?" You got to approach it, but if you're going with a judgmental attitude to find out just what's going on, you got to be careful how you phrase that. Where were you, Roger? You know, he's gonna take it, he's digging, have something against me or judge me, you know. We've got to learn to speak with a good loving tongue and kind tongue. You know, be careful what we say.
Amen.
You know, you know, once it ever leaves our mouth,
It's
it's
done.
not coming back. It's gonna come back another way.
Yeah.
But we know, and there's several of us in this room have had that happen to us. I mean, probably a lot of us in this room. And we need to understand sometimes you just, you know, people don't call you because they're afraid to hear what they don't want to hear, or they just don't want to be involved, or, well, we'll make it without them, you know. So, you know, but then you see them on the street, oh, we just love you.
I started laughing when you were talking about it. It just brought back a memory. One of our sons, you know, we let him borrow some money because it needed some help, you know, and he's supposed to pay us back. It was funny because Kim would say, "Well, I don't get, you know, he don't call me, blah, 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 blah." Well, after we finally, we said, you know, I tell you what, we did something for each of the kids, you're fine, you know. Then she starts getting phone calls and everything's great. But there's not that tension there about, you know, and it could be different things, not just money, but, you know, different things that if that tension's there, that's gonna hurt the relationship. So we've got to somehow figure out how to overcome that tension. You know, what's wrong. Hey, Robin.
I think a lot of times people live in fear of reaching out to other people. And a lot of times it might be that one person that makes the whole
Makes a
difference.
difference.
We, two things. One is, and it's something I'm having to overcome too. A lot of us think we have to explain everything we do. We do not have to explain everything we do and everything that happens to us. I mean, it's sufficient to say, well, I'm sorry, I was sick yesterday, but I'm okay now. You don't have to tell what kind of illness you had or anything like that. It may be something that happens frequently and you just don't talk, you know, it's just a way of life for you. And when you get my age, sometimes you have things like that. So, and 39 is a nice age, but when you've been that old as long as I have, it's not exactly. And the other thing is somebody may be having a problem. And we may realize there's a problem here somewhere. We may even have been in the world and dealt with people and know from behavior what it might be. And we may be right. But that person might not be ready to talk about it. And until they are, we should not force them to talk about it.
Correct. Because there's that tension and it will upset them. Ruth, were you?
Yeah, things keep kind of going in and out of my mind right now because this is kind of a subject that touches me. And there's no one here right now that does it, but there was a time here that, you know, Brad's not coming on Wednesday night, period. He's on. Very rare on Sunday nights he may come. Now, if he's in town, he comes every Sunday morning. But there was a while that people would come up to me and say, where's Brad? Okay, well, he's not here. Well, you need to tell him he needs to come to church. And that would just, you know, I would think, well, you call him and actually call people. And it's very, how you approach people.
Right.
And I know there were probably, they really are just wanting to say they miss them. But if you have a family member that's not coming and you approach them that way all the time, well, you know, they're not going to be here Wednesday night. Wednesday night, you're still going to ask, you know, why is Brad not here? Or it's communication is key in love. How you approach people, and I think I know Brad needs some phone calls. You know, it would encourage him. You know, he would love a phone call. And I don't hear him ever say anyone calls, but I do invite him every time I walk out the door. He sometimes gives me an answer of why he's not coming, but I'm not going tonight. But it would help my family if he could hear a little more. I mean, you know, just to be open with y'all because we're talking about it. How you approach people, how you love people, what you say to people. You know, it's critical, and they do want to hear from you. Mm-hmm. Even if, and don't approach them, where are you? Say, hey, I just missed you. Just want to let you know I missed you.
And sometimes that's all it takes.
That's all it takes is their feeling.
Thank you for that.
Chris?
So,
Terry,
yes.
what Ruth was saying, I've asked her several times about Brad. Her answer was to call him, see what he's doing. See, I've never called her.
Yeah.
And I've asked several times, where's Brad? She's calling. That's her answer to me. I said, okay. I never did.
You might be surprised how, I mean, so seriously, you know, Kim and I, you know, she may be telling me all the time, I need to do something. I need to do something. But that pretty much gets to where you may start ignoring or, you know, I know what I need to do, but, you know, unless someone else comes up and tells me, I may not have really put that much importance into it. So I think it's something that, you know, that we need to think about. Janie, one
Another
more?
thing that would help, if we had more people like Ruth to
Just spoke
share
up.
the actual problem.
Mhm.
but we don't, we just set it on it. Or we decide to use, well, he's head of the house, well, being head of the house doesn't mean you don't go to worship if you're a Christian.
So.
You know, I mean, so Ruth did, I mean, we need to not make excuses for those people, but we need more people like Ruth who will say what the problem is.
Now we need people to do what?
Ruth asked us to.
Take action, you know. And I don't say everybody call tomorrow.
What'd you do?
Maybe let Tony call this week. Yeah, but yeah, then he'd be going, what happened?
And he's out of town right now, so he's really out of town.
So, yeah, let's be cognizant of that as well, so.
I'll just speak the truth in love,
Yes,
and we speak this in love too.
right.
That's my brother world, miss you, whatever, you can love. But it just-
So I know we're about over, so most of us, and we didn't even get through any of this, so that's fine though. I mean, and that's what this is, discussion, so we can, learn. Most of us have read the account of creation from Genesis several times. It is important to notice that our name is mentioned nowhere in that text. In the beginning, you weren't there, and God did just fine. Of course, this is said with a hint of sarcasm, but Solomon echoes the thought when he says, God is in heaven, and you are on earth. Therefore, let your words be few, in Ecclesiastes 5, verse 2. It seems that maybe our self-image is out of whack. We think we can add something to God's creation to make us better, but we were created in his image and according to his likeness. After we were created, he paid us the highest compliment. What did he say? Very good. Not just good, very good. And that was the only creation that he said is very good. But of course, the first man and woman weren't satisfied with very good, were they? No. They sought to improve on it. Satan tempted them to do the one thing God told them not to do, with the assurance that it would make them better. It didn't. It separated them from God, and the rest of the Bible is a call for us to come back to him. James 4:8 is a summary of the message of the whole Bible in one sentence. Draw near to God, and he will draw near to you. Throughout the pages of Scripture, we find this statement to be true. Abraham drew near to God, and he went from childless to the father of a people. Moses drew near to God, and he went from reluctant prophet to mighty leader. David drew near to God, and he went from shepherd to giant killer. Peter drew near to God, and he went from fearful denier to a powerful preacher. And Paul drew near to God and went from a murderer to a missionary. When we draw near to God, he makes our lives significant. Lives that matter are built on the foundation of a healthy respect for God. So can we look back at these lives in the Bible and say, well, those were the Bible people? Or can we look at people's lives today and see people that have given their lives to God doing what God wants them to do? Are they making a difference in other people's lives?
We in Hebrews, and we talk about the cloud of witnesses that we have in the Bible, but we need to personally look at people that we can add to that cloud.
Right.
And be part of their lives. Grandmother Smith, I think left us an old congregation. She was Naomi Hannah, people like that need to become part of our cloud of witnesses in our lives too. We just don't need to say, well, we just want to rely. We need to have seen this live like they did. That these people lived what Abraham and Isaac and Jacob, Joseph and Moses, they lived for God. And that's why they're such a witness to us. And we need to look at people and say, they're just, if we do that, we know we have walked with people that their first love is God. We continue that path and grow in that thought.
So, we know that, we can live our lives for God. As humans, though, what do we normally try to do?
Treat yourself.
Try to take the easy way out? So I think we gotta be careful with that. The Pharisees in Jesus' day was no different. They knew the importance of keeping the commands, but there were so many commandments that they couldn't keep. They couldn't help but wonder if there was one that had more significance than the others. So they asked Jesus which commandment was the greatest, and we'll end the lesson with this. And he told them to love God and love each other, Matthew chapter 22, 35 through 40. If fearing God is the foundation for a life that matters, then we lay the foundation by loving God and loving our neighbor. This is the beginning of a life that matters. If you love somebody, are you going to harm them?
Not intentionally.
Not intentionally. If you love somebody, are you going to protect them? Are you going to make sure their life is where it needs to be? So that's something to think about as we live our life this week. So the people that you love, and I'm not saying that you need to keep that same circle. That same circle needs to be there, but we need to make sure that we're affecting others out in this world by showing them the love that Christ has for them. So we've got to spread the love, as you might say. You know, it sounds simple, but for many of us, this has taken a back seat. As was stated in the introduction, we live in an anxious time in regards to our lives, the economy, even the church. Our stomachs seem to be tied in knots. Why? Because we're worried about what's going on in this world. We're worried about our status in this world. We're worried about our money. We're worried about our recreation, as we talked about earlier. As a result, we try to make ourselves feel better with things that, in the grand scheme of things, don't matter. They only make the knot of anxiety even bigger. Yet when we love God and love each other, we see the knot loosening and we see the difference God is making through us. In other words, we used to take the spotlight off of ourselves and place it back on God where it belongs. When the spotlight is on us, it only highlights what? Our needs, our selfish needs, what we want, and it doesn't, what? It takes everybody's focus off of who? God. When it is on God, it highlights the one who can feel our needs and make us significant. So let's say you go down to the store. Used to it was Best Buy. I mean, I was big in electronics. You got our brand new computer, brand new phone, whatever. Did that make you feel good for a second? Just a little bit? And then what happens? Then you get the bill next month. But you, like I say, you're never going to be satisfied in things. I think we need to look at God, study His Word, understand His love, and start looking what we can do to help others and show others the love of God. And then your life is going to be a lot more fulfilling. And I can guarantee that. Any other comments on the class?
You know, we talk about missing it, or you could be preemptive like Tony is with me. He tells me when he's not.
Right.
And usually what the reason is.
And that shows a concern. Hey, I'm not going to be here, X, Y, Z, just let you know.
I usually know something's wrong if you don't tell me you're not here. Then I worry about it.
It's good, yeah. And I know most of us like to be private and don't want everybody to know what we're doing or what have you, but it's not bad to have someone know, hey, this is what we'll be doing, because what if, forbid, something happens and you didn't tell no one, hey, I'm not going to be there Wednesday night, so no one's going to check on you, and guess what? You fell and broke your leg or something, you can't get to the phone, So, I mean, it's good to let other people know, what's going on.
Share. For a long time, we didn't talk much about our problems with our elders. But, I find out every day, I've been working on this house and start talking with the HVAC guy, and he tells me he had a sister, everybody I talk to seems to have an issue in their family somewhere. To me, that shares and helps, so you can know that there are other people that are having the same issue.
Everybody's life in this building ain't all roses. A lot of people's been through a lot of different things, and as such, can help support one another. Thank y'all. Appreciate your participation. Good.